Wrestling With Kayfabe, episode 1, finally.
Numero uno.
I know. DEJ.
DEJ?
Formerly known as EDJ. Heel turn.
And your boy Papa Schro here, episode number 1.
Oh, speaking of heel turns, the best heel turn I've seen in a long fucking time, dude.
Yeah?
Roman Reigns has finally found a character that works for him. That is a badass that's finally a dick.
I feel you. Like, his career needed a heel turn so bad.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's kind of like if you saw John Cena become heel, but because I feel like they're the same character, pretty much.
I can see that.
But John Cena is a way better promo than Roman Reigns. So I feel like they kind of hit it on the head. Roman Reigns by himself is okay promo-wise, but he needed someone to make him that guy. Mm-hmm. And who better person than Paul Heyman, who makes guys the guy.
Now he's a Paul Heyman guy.
He's Paul Heyman.
How about that?
So, I mean, that makes sense to me. I didn't really love Paul Heyman's promo on Roman Reigns Friday. I thought it was okay. But I mean, I think it worked for some people just because it was so, just very direct into what people wanted. But that's probably one of my least favorite Heyman promos.
Word. I didn't see the one on Friday night. I like how they've started with Roman Reigns. Mm-hmm. I do like how they've started with him, but my biggest question about all of it is what does this mean for Brock Lesnar whenever he returns?
If he returns. I mean, he probably will, but they were talking about how him and Reigns and Heyman will become this faction, which is cool for like a month.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
And then it's just going to get boring. It's just going to be them rolling over everybody.
I actually kind of like that idea. Thinking of like their past and all the history that they've had, all three of them together, and to throw that into a faction, I actually do really like that idea. Like you said, not for long. Maybe a little bit longer than a month, maybe 3 to 6 months. And then that creates, obviously, another WrestleMania match between the two. Yeah. But do we really want to see another WrestleMania match between them?
Well, who do you turn face at that point? It has to be Lesnar. It can't be Roman.
I think it has to be Roman. Because I think the whole reason in turning him heel is to get him over to become a, babyface. They are... I guarantee you they're thinking along the lines of like Stone Cold, The Rock. Yeah. This is now Roman's moment to turn heel. When he becomes babyface again, he will have won everyone over and everyone will love him. Which I don't know if that'll be the case, but it's very possible. And between their 2 WrestleMania matches, honestly, both of them very exciting, I think. Yeah. So I mean, I wouldn't be against another WrestleMania match because the first one with Rollins coming in and winning the title, both of them were shocks because then we also thought at WrestleMania 34 Brock was going back to the UFC, and then all of a sudden 3 count on Reigns, and everybody, I know I was just like, what the fuck just happened? Like that, I felt like that was not supposed to happen.
I just had a thought. They will probably try to make it the similar storyline of Big Show, Heyman, Lesnar.
Ooh,
if you remember.
Yes.
That. So Heyman was Lesnar with Lesnar, and then at Royal Rumble I think it was Madison Square Garden. Can't remember what year it was. I think it was
Survivor Series.
Survivor Series, yeah.
I had that DVD as a kid.
Right. That was 03?
03, yeah.
Yeah. And then Heyman turns on Lesnar at Survivor Series.
It was the night of the first Elimination Chamber ever.
Yeah.
One where Triple H got his throat crushed.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And surprisingly, Shawn Michaels beat Triple H, I think.
Uh-huh.
Which Triple H took like 5 pins his whole career, so...
Right. Clean.
But it was to Shawn Michaels, so I mean, that's, technically 4 pins. So...
Right.
I don't know, but that's probably where they're going to go with it, to get Roman Reigns a face, get Paul Heyman behind him and get people to hate Roman, and then just when Lesnar returns, they fight for the title and Lesnar looks like this big badass guy, and then Heyman turns on him in the end. Which it probably, knowing Paul Heyman, that's what he's going to want to do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably what they'll end up doing. Which is fine, but you got to make it seem like it's an original idea instead of something you ripped off of, 10 years ago.
At least it's been 20 years ago. Yeah.
You got to make it a little different, which they might. But one thing that I finally liked, and they actually did it right this time, was Bayley Sasha.
Oh, I did see that on
Did
Friday.
that
Yeah.
right this time, unlike both of them being face and blah blah blah. Bayley looks so good as a heel.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I mean, she sells it well. She does it well. And the throwback to Kane stepping on the chair from the top rope on the throat was beautiful. It just made her look fucking nuts. And that's what you want from that kind of blood feud. I mean, you don't want to, she threw her in the stairs and over the announcer's table. No, you want her to almost kill her.
Mm-hmm.
And they finally got that right. They finally understood that if this is going to work, we have to make one of them look like a murderous.
Well, and it's the tale of the best friends, turned enemies,
right.
Turned foes. So yeah, I completely agree with you. It's got to be, like when Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens power bombed him on the side of the ring. Right. That was like the first time we saw that. That was just like, holy shit! Like, right. It's absolutely got to be like that. It's got to be, over the top. So then I guess we're looking at Sasha being the face in this.
Yeah, I mean, I guess character-wise that makes sense just because she has, the face music still, and, she still has, she looks like a face.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm way in more on Bayley than I've ever been on Sasha. I think Bayley's the star out of those two. But her run is almost as good as Becky Lynch's run as Raw Women's Champion, I think. And just because she's won every match, she's beaten everybody. But now you run into the fact that you're probably going to give it to Sasha at some point, but now you have to give Sasha more than a 3-week run.
Yeah, dude, I don't know, because, they have never been sold on Sasha. It's been pretty obvious. And that is why she is where she's at, I think. I mean, I thought that she would definitely have a really good main roster run, but it seems like it's just been stop, start. Mm-hmm. Her and Charlotte's feud was good. But yeah, you have to give her more than 3 weeks if she's going to take the belt off Bayley.
And that could be part of her problem. They view her as a transitional champion, and one of those almost their stars, but they push her as a star, but they don't make her a star.
Right.
It's just weird that I think that's why
there's a lot of frustrations with WWE.
Nobody buys into her that well is because you're going to push her as a star, but she's not.
Absolutely.
So either make her a star that you're pushing her to be, or just move her out of the way.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Either figure out if you're going to push her to the moon or leave her on the mid card. Just figure it out.
Because now they've got Peyton Royce from the Iconics, who's probably going to get a push, and she's really athletic. You can just tell in the ring that she has a grasp of it, and I'm actually excited for it. I actually do like Peyton Royce a lot, just obviously because she's athletic, and I think she has the look. But I don't know who she would face in that scenario. I don't know if she'd become a face or not. But I can see her becoming a face just because of the fact that they had to break up and they can play the sympathy babyface role for her, which will probably work. But I mean, you gotta. I think outside of, even though we haven't seen her wrestle hardly at all, outside of Alexa Bliss, Bayley is the best wrestler female-wise on the roster.
Yeah, especially with Charlotte out right now.
Right.
I'm not mad at that at all.
Which I'm bummed that we haven't seen Alexa Bliss at all. But I think she just keeps getting injured. But I do like the fact that she's going to be the new member of the Wyatt family. I think that's going to be cool to see.
Okay. I haven't seen any of SmackDown, so what happened with SmackDown?
Well, they keep teasing the fact that she's going to turn into a form of Sister Abigail, I think. Or more of her clown gimmick of Chance, I think, from, the DC universe.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and I think that's what they're going to try to do. But knowing WWE is probably going to be like Becky Lynch or something. Who fucking knows? But I would hope it would be Alexa Bliss. It makes the most sense. They're using her with Braun Strowman and Bray Wyatt. I think that'd be kind of interesting to see if they can get those people together and make them worth the time to invest in a bigger Wyatt family. Because I mean, you get Alexa Bliss in there, you get another guy in there. Then you're really talking.
Eric Rowan's not on the roster anymore, is he?
No.
So all the other members of the Wyatt family are gone besides Braun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like the Roman Reigns heel turn, to kind of go back to that, but I'm pretty upset at how they've done, because they've once again now fucked Bray Wyatt.
They did.
What was the point of him ever winning the belt in the first place? I mean,
Yeah,
I feel like WWE has shown that all he really is a transitional champion, even as The Fiend. And I feel like The Fiend is over, and, why not push him to the moon? And even with, the way that they've sold The Fiend, why would Roman not have to come down and really fight for the belt? Because, look what Seth Rollins did to The Fiend,
right.
And he was fine. I thank God they finally got rid of the red lighting. That
was stupid.
That used to drive me nuts when they did that with Sin Cara back in the day, the blue and gold, and that drove me nuts with The Fiend. I feel like it almost makes it unwatchable for me.
Yeah, I was glad they got rid of that, because I mean, he's not really a cartoon character. He's not like the Kane of the '90s. He's not he's not that guy that has superhuman powers. It's just some creepy dude.
Mm-hmm.
And to bring back to normal wrestling and have him do all that, I think that helps him a lot. I didn't necessarily mind how he lost the title, just because he didn't take the pin.
Right.
He got low blowed, which took him out of the match unfairly. And he had been, they just broke the ring. So it's not like Roman just came down and speared him and pinned him, because that would have been terrible storytelling. So, I mean, at least they got him out of the way to where he has a room to come in and try to fight Roman for the championship legitimately, instead of just getting it back for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do that, which they're not, they're going to give Jey Uso a shot, which is interesting family-wise. But other than that, do you really think Jey Uso is going to go in there and have any chance at all beating him? It's going to be like a 5-minute match. It's just going to be stupid. And it's probably going to be interrupted by Bray Wyatt anyway.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Or, well, what's Jimmy Uso doing?
I don't know. Is he out of jail?
Oh, he was in jail.
I don't know. Well, I mean, he keeps getting the DWIs and stuff.
Oh,
so I don't
okay.
know.
So he's probably off TV anyways.
Yeah, I don't know if they're wanting to be on TV or not.
Shows how great I've kept up with everything lately.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's really interesting them doing that. I got that update on my phone and was like, that's interesting to say the least. I'm not mad at it, because it gives this time for Bray and Braun to kind of do their own thing, tell that story a little bit more, come back to this, kind of let it all just breathe for a minute, with Roman coming in, and, because Braun and Bray definitely, their story is not finished on all of that.
No, and then now you get the championship out of the way of that story, so now you can just tell the whole story better. Which, I mean...
And then elevate one of them to Roman.
Right, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But in that aspect, I think you let Braun win, keep the championship, and then just have Roman pin Braun. Yeah,
because it does kind of feel... Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it feels... Like, why take the belt away from the feud? It just kind of diminished that whole feud a little bit.
Right. Unless if they're basically laying an egg to give the Fiend something to feed off of Roman later on.
Right.
Which makes sense. Just simply, for the fact that now The Fiend has a reason to go after Roman Reigns even more so because of the fact of how he won the championship in the first place.
Yeah, and he never pinned The Fiend.
Right.
Also, am I tripping? Because I feel like it was just The Fiend originally, and now it's The Fiend Bray Wyatt. And I don't really like that. I liked the fact of they were kind of treating it as like, I just thought of it as like Foley back in the day.
Right.
Dude love is dude love. Cactus Jack is Cactus Jack.
Right.
Mankind is mankind.
Yeah, I think, well, at some point I think they ended up just combining all three of them into being McFoley.
Yeah.
And Jim Ross would bring up this is, McFoley's blah, blah, blah. But I don't think it was selling as well. I mean, he can sell whatever he wants because he's so good psychologically and just with characters and anything.
Absolutely.
But I don't know. I think it makes sense just for the fact that people know that that's Bray Wyatt. And I think some people just felt like it was too cartoonish, which I kind of got, just because that's not really a real thing. It's more real if it's just some crazy guy in a mask instead of just a whole other entity, which is understandable. But speaking of character work, Randy Orton has made not a comeback, but his main run has come back. And holy shit, I love it. I love everything about it. I love the old time legend killer Randy Orton. I love the Viper Randy Orton and whatever he was doing when he was with the Authority. That was kind of stupid. But now he's gotten back to what made him such a star was just being a madman who's a fucking dick.
Yeah.
And it's perfect. And I love the fact that they brought Ric Flair back. I love the fact that they brought Christian back. I love the fact that they brought the Big Show back. Just to tell a story that lines up with McIntyre way better than just having Orton randomly win a title opportunity against McIntyre for no reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really like how they did all of that and the feud that he had with McIntyre, coming off of the feud that he had with Edge.
Mm-hmm.
And, like you said, it really tied all that up together. I don't know if that was maybe the plan, before the Edge feud, or, how that would, go into.
It probably changed because Edge got injured.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
It changed for the better because, that's a brilliant idea. But it could have been the plan. At some point, I think we'll see Edge and Orton at WrestleMania for the title. I don't think McIntyre will keep it till WrestleMania. I think he'll lose it at some point down the line to Orton. Maybe at this one coming up.
Survivor Series, the next big one we got?
Yeah, maybe. I don't think you have Orton lose 3 pay-per-views in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for the championship. I just don't think that happens.
I wonder how long they're going to keep McIntyre off TV. With the injury angle that they played up to have the Keith Lee match. Which I like that.
Yeah.
That was smart. Yeah. It let, again, another rivalry kind of breathe, because I feel like, when you get too many of these constant matches back to back to back, and it seems like they've really had a lot of events lately, This Payback was a week after SummerSlam, right. And I can't remember what the next pay-per-view coming up is. I saw an ad for it, but
I can't remember. But
either way,
yeah, I liked the fact that Randy Orton is doing that, and I do like the fact that from where they started, back with Edge at WrestleMania, which was a super fucking long match, by the way.
Yeah,
it's like 40 minutes, something like that. Which, to let somebody go 40 minutes who hasn't wrestled in like 10 years, probably not the best idea in the world. But he looked good.
And the way that the match was, it was a false count anywhere. Mm-hmm. The way that was set up, it was easier, I think, to get in that amount of time, just for the simple fact that, you have so many different spots to play around with.
Mm-hmm. And their next match, the greatest wrestling match ever,
That was so silly.
It was okay.
Yeah.
It was okay. I mean, they're both better than what they gave, but it was okay.
Wasn't the greatest wrestling match ever?
No. No. I mean, some of the greatest wrestling matches ever are probably not even considered top 10 matches. If there was one, it was Orton, John Cena at like No Limit, and it was fantastic. But it was just the way they wrestled him, wrestling psychology. Cena injured his head, so Orton attacked his head the whole time. And if you do that kind of wrestling, you can have a really good match, but you have to have both the guys into it, and those are two of the best guys ever to put in there. Speaking of that, do you feel like McIntyre, excuse me, is the best champion they've had since John Cena?
Well, when was Cena's? Are you saying since Cena had the belt last?
Since his last big run, which was like almost 2 years. Maybe it was 2 years.
Yeah. No. I will say no, not since then, because I think CM Punk had... it's hard to say the title run, because the title run really wasn't as good as the initial story of it. They fucked all that up. But yes and no, just because I think the only other guy I would put in there is Punk.
Yeah, that's hard to remember, because I mean, Punk had that run where he went from the Straight Edge Society, which was a really good idea, and then he went to being a Paul Heyman guy, which was another really good idea.
Well, in between was the whole him against the establishment, the Money in the Bank match,
right?
And that was when he originally won the title. Came back a week later, which is, man, I think outside of the Invasion angle, that is the worst flop WWE may have, definitely in recent history, in the last 20 years that they've had. I think those are the two worst flops that they had, because what Summer of Punk was supposed to be would have been, if he would have, I think he should have been gone for a lot longer. Especially if you're going to crown a new champion, and the way that they did that, the champion versus champion, which I can't remember what pay-per-view that was now. Because he won the belt at Money in the Bank. That was SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Because that's when Kevin Nash came out and Alberto Del Rio cashes in. So, the way they did that, I don't know. They fumbled all of that. But he had a solid, year run after that. And then, concluded with him and Paul Heyman. And yeah, that was very interesting.
Yeah, that whole Kevin Nash thing was strange. I mean, I like Kevin Nash, but to throw him into that whole scenario for no reason was kind of weird. I don't think anyone was looking for a Kevin Nash CM Punk match anyway.
Right.
So I don't know why. I think everyone was looking at a Triple H CM Punk match. That would have been good. But to see Kevin Nash CM Punk, especially Kevin Nash in his 50s,
and they did have that match at Night of Champions that year, right after that, where, Triple H got a really bad rap for burying Punk, and that was one of the things that really kind of soured him on everything. And I still to this day don't understand why WWE didn't just maybe give a little bit. It was, because, I mean, I think how good would have been WrestleMania 29 to add him to the Rock Cena match, and then you don't, he gets his WrestleMania main event. I don't think that he leaves the company. I don't think he walks out like he does, because at least he got that.
Yeah.
That was one of his biggest gripes, was not main eventing Mania. And at the same time, I think that, they kind of missed it. Because by the time that he left the company, I mean, he had kind of faded. I mean, he was still a star in the company and everything, but, that was the time that Daniel Bryan was on the up and up, and, they had worked together a few times and had some tag team matches together, and, but it was clear, I think, that Bryan was, being, whether WWE wanted it or not, obviously they didn't want it, but he was being pushed to superstardom, by the fans, and I think, Punk felt like his star was kind of dying and knew that he probably would never main event WrestleMania.
Yeah, and that's a disappointment. But I mean, CM Punk also got to do something not a lot of people do, and that was wrestle The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
This is very true, and had an amazing match.
Right, and it was a really, really good match. So, I mean, he did have some things that he could have done, but at the same time, I mean, he got an exclusive list on a lot of stuff. I mean, a super long reign as champion, wrestling The Undertaker at WrestleMania.
But you got to think, when he was WWE champion, he didn't main event Mania, which, you know, Cena versus The Rock once in a lifetime, air quote, was the main event. And I mean, obviously, you couldn't put Jericho Punk over them.
Right.
That would have been silly. But I forgot where I was going with that. But, you know, the next year, I think that was the year he wrestled The Undertaker. So, I mean, it is tough to kind of take that match away when you think about all of it. But, you know, adding him to that match might have added some extra life to Cena and The Rock in that second match, because that second match was, I mean, kind of boring.
I mean, yeah, but I didn't mind the storytelling of the second match, just because, you know, it's a year long of Cena wanting that back. And that was something they had never really tried before, doing a whole year build to a second match.
Right.
And I didn't mind it, just because it is John Cena and it is, you know, The Rock.
Yeah.
And
absolutely,
to have those two, you know, talk a whole year. I would have liked to see Punk Cena at the main event. I think that's a better match. But as a better story, I don't think there was a better story than Rock Cena to, you know, throughout the whole year.
Yeah, I feel you. And I didn't, like you said, I didn't hate it from the storytelling part. Aspect of all of it, and you know, really going into that WrestleMania, Punk, the way they did Punk and Undertaker, I mean, the storytelling on that was really good as well. So, I mean, it is what it is.
One of the things that, oh wow, Kurt Angle. You know, I never really, we were watching some What Culture, and we saw Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is probably the third best wrestler of all time.
I could get behind that.
I mean, it's hard to deny just how good he was in the ring. And he was really good at being a dick.
Yeah, his character was great. And absolutely.
It reminded me of a younger, more athletic Shawn Michaels character, in a way, just because of the fact that, you know, he felt untouchable, and he was just so good in the ring. And even when his mid to late 2000 runs in SmackDown and just rolling through SmackDown, and you can't get much better than that with a Kurt Angle character. The only thing that I wish they would have done during that time was actually getting him help when he was addicted to all that shit with the, what did he say?
Pretty sure it was pain pills.
I think it was pain pills.
Yeah.
He said
I mean, that's what most wrestlers seems like gets them.
I think he said at one point he chewed up like 40 a day.
Jesus.
I mean, and it was like Vicodin.
Yeah.
And he'd just go, you know, wrestle and shit. And if WWE would have, if he would,
they did try to get him help though.
I think they did.
From what I understand, I mean, they tried. When somebody's at that point of addiction, it's hard to do anything with them. That's why he just said, fuck it, and went to TNA.
Yeah.
I always wondered that as, you know, a kid growing up. Like, why the fuck did Kurt Angle just decide, like, to go to TNA?
Yeah. Well, yeah, why the hell did any of them decide to go to TNA? Because, I mean, you had Kurt Angle, you had Sting, you had Christian. You had Jeff
Sting
Hardy.
I always understood.
Yeah, Sting I understood. But you had Jeff Hardy, Christian... God, who else? You had Kevin Nash, Eric Bischoff.
I feel like all the WCW guys always kind of got it. And then other than that, really, I think that... I mean, pretty much everybody else is failing drug test. For the most part.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably why. Because I don't think TNA really cared. At that point, they were just trying to compete.
Yeah, trying to figure out a way to get on the spectrum of professional wrestling at the top of the game.
And I mean, they had all the right people. Because if you have people like Jeff Jarrett or, Sting and God, you have people who are on top of WWE right now. You had AJ Styles at one point.
Samoa Joe.
Samoa Joe at one point.
And this is talent that they kind of developed, you know, to a point. I mean, they were young there.
I'm trying to think of what else they had.
Bobby Roode. And he was a top star over there. Yeah. A lot of those guys that came from over there, like, basically besides AJ Styles, none of them, I feel like, have really gotten treated the way, unless they were in NXT. And that really frustrates me, I feel, because I feel like, especially with the whole Glorious gimmick, I feel like Bobby Roode could have been, like, on the top level. Like, at least for a window of time, you know, so a few months, like when he first came to the main roster. Even Bobby Lashley now. You know, and he was the top guy when he left for TNA. I mean, he was kind of starting to fizzle towards mid-card, and I think he's a guy I actually don't know why he ever went over there. Was his failed drug test, or was his just frustration with WWE?
I think he got tired of the creative at WWE. I don't know what else there was that caused him to leave.
But I feel like most of those guys get just pushed to the mid-card once they, you know, do their little run in NXT. And not that I don't know. NXT is an interesting being where it's at now. I don't know how I feel about all of it, because at the time where it was, you know, strictly developmental, I felt like that they should figure out an aspect to work in. I always thought in my head, like, it would be really cool if they took NXT as a brand and, you know, treated it like almost like collegiate sports or something like that, to where when you have, because I've always been a huge fan of the draft after WrestleMania when they did that back in the day, figure out a way to, like, make an NXT draft where these brands go after you know, the top talent, and then you know, somehow figure out, you know, I mean, you could work matches in there to figure out, like, oh, this is for the first pick in the draft, and make it almost a big deal. You know, you could even maybe pull off a special that way, I think. I don't know. It was something I've always thought about with the draft, that I feel like they could do more with the draft than what they do. I liked back in the day when they did they would do a match for a pick. That was always interesting, especially when it was random. But, like, that very first draft they had, there's almost, like, nothing. Like, that was such an interesting event that I feel like has never really been recreated. I guess they kind of did when they resplit, but that initial draft was just so impactful. And, I mean, granted, I was a kid when it happened, and it just seemed like, you know, who's, you know, Jeff Hardy's going to Raw and Matt Hardy's going to SmackDown. What is going on? Like, you know, no more Hardy Boys. I think the Dudleys got split up that night as well. Yeah. That's when we got Reverend Devon and Deacon Batista.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that whole era was interesting just because they had to change from, you know, the ruthless aggression to, you know, more of a PG mindset. But, well, that's not true. That was coming out of the Attitude Era.
Yeah, into the ruthless aggression.
Yeah, into ruthless aggression. And I feel like ruthless aggression was probably not as good as it could have been.
It's definitely underrated, I think.
I think so.
The roster was insane at that point. The roster
wasn't it, especially SmackDowns. I mean, you had Kurt Angle, John Cena, Booker T,
Rey Mysterio,
Edge. I mean, just star after star was on SmackDown. I think Triple H was
Eddie
on SmackDown
Guerrero.
At one point. Eddie Guerrero, JBL. I mean, and Undertaker. I mean, and Raw had some people. I mean, Raw had the younger people. They had Batista. They had Randy Orton. They had Kane. But RVD, Shelton Benjamin, Chris Jericho,
Booker T when, like, it first started, Goldust. It was quite a show.
Raw had the better women's division. They had Trish Stratus, Lita.
I mean, I don't even know if I can name, outside of Tori Wilson, anyone that was on SmackDown.
Oh yeah, she was on SmackDown.
Sable for a while, I guess, when she came back.
Yeah, and then Raw had Mickie James.
Victoria on Raw earlier on in the initial brand split.
Yeah, I like that, even though she's off TV right now for a while because of the crazy shit that happened in real life, but I think Sonya Deville is a really good replacement for Victoria down the line. I think they have her character better than it was. Just kind of like crazy, super physical, female wrestler that I think she does really well because of her background, one. And two, I think she's a great promo in the ring. But I think that crazy shit with the guy that tried to kidnap her and her friends in her house.
Fuck. That's some wild shit.
I mean, that's crazy. And they had to write her off TV for a while. And
I think her gimmick is a whole lot better now that Ronda's gone.
Yeah, it doesn't,
because
it doesn't feel...
I feel like that was really hard to get behind that when she initially came to the main roster. When you have Ronda that was a UFC champion and you're playing up as an MMA, type background. Different levels, it's hard to pass that immersion in my head. So without Ronda, it's a lot better.
It is a lot better, and I don't think the wrestling world really cared about Ronda Rousey that much once she got past month 6.
I think, you're absolutely right. I think the wrestling world, I don't want to say wanted to see her fail, because that's kind of fucked up, but everybody was pleasantly surprised with how good she was, especially at WrestleMania.
In the ring, she was good. On the microphone, she was absolutely terrible.
Yeah, and that's not too surprising to me, just because, she never really talked shit in MMA, and then...
Oh, she talked a lot of shit on Holly Holm.
Well, but, in a different way, I feel. It was, all, raw, emotional. It wasn't like a, Conor McGregor calculated type of, if Conor McGregor were to walk in the door at WWE, he would cut just as good as promos as everybody else, I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, with Ronda. But with Ronda, I just think that you're absolutely right. I think about 6 months in that people didn't really care about her too much anymore because, it was what it was, I think. We got the initial, that triple threat match at the end was really good. But then how she handled everything afterwards and being upset that people lost interest in your character. Okay, it goes to her, character as a person, speaks to it, and we know how she is about that. She's still, I don't think, ever spoken too much about either one of her UFC losses. So, as soon as things go sour, she's out the door, mentally.
The only time she talked about it, what I've seen, was when I saw a clip of it on Ellen, and she cried about it, losing to Holly Holm. I think it just boils down to when people get so worshipped in any combat sport of any kind, they just really think they're untouchable.
Mm-hmm. Well, and especially being in mixed martial arts like that, and you're undefeated, and Joe Rogan is saying that you're the best female boxer in the world, and people are saying that, John Jones said that he thought that she could beat Floyd in a boxing match. When you're getting...
Was she known that low for her boxing, though?
No. But there for a minute, remember she had that knockout streak, though.
Oh, yeah.
With Betch Correia, Sarah McMahon, she finished her with that knee. And I think the Correia fight was in 13 seconds or something like that. She finished her. And so, yeah, she had a lot of praise there for boxing, and they would show a lot of, clips of her with Tarverdyan, doing mitts and stuff. So, it got way blown out of proportion, and I think you're right. She just thought she was untouchable, and, as soon as she's been shown to the world that she is not untouchable, it's hard to cope with.
Boy, good lord, did she get shown that she was not untouchable.
Yeah. And honestly, I don't know which one is really worse, because the Nunes one was so quick and violent and just straight to the point, but then the Holly Holm one was so precise, and she's literally falling down, because Holly's just moving out of the way. And
I think the Holly Holm one made her look bad, just because she was still undefeated at the time, and she kept calling Holly Holm overrated and all this and all that. And she just looked like she was swinging in the air.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Holly Holm is one of the best strikers, female or male, in the world, period.
Yeah.
I mean, and for her to go in there and it was like a playground move. She got tossed off her back, and Holly Holm just kicked her in the mouth.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But Amanda Nunes is a whole other story. I mean, I don't think you have any shame in losing to Amanda Nunes. I don't know who.
Well, it's shown. I mean, she is the female GOAT, no doubt about it, hands down. Who in the world
is going to beat Amanda Nunes? And she's just fucking terrifying. Mm-hmm. She's actually terrifying. Ronda Rousey was good, but Amanda Nunes is terrifying.
Absolutely.
But anyway, we got totally off track.
Right.
But yeah, Ronda's character didn't work. One character I want to see work, really.
There was no progression to Ronda's character. Yeah.
One character I want to see that's be interesting when she comes back is Becky Lynch.
Yeah.
What do they do with that?
Because she just relinquished the title. She didn't even lose it, did she?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I'm excited. I'm excited to see her come back.
Because that's hard to do. I mean, she was still hot.
I really like... For a silly reason, I feel like somewhat that I really fuck with Becky Lynch characters because I was there the night that Nia Jax knocked her the fuck out. And that was wild. And I thought that was funny because, you know, being in the crowd, like... I feel like it's a little bit different than watching it on TV. It's easy to kind of, I don't know. It's just, you know, it's that confusing moment of like, oh, right. She's actually fucked up. Like somebody fucked up somewhere. And I didn't see, you know, what happened at the time. So I didn't even know it was Nia Jax or anything. I just knew Becky Lynch was bloody at the top of the ramp, or, you know. The stairs. And that was like on the, kind of like to the right of me because I was kind of like, directly back but to the right of the stage, so it was like far enough to where I could see, but I was also close enough I could see pretty good. So but yeah, that character's really, you know, I mean, she was so hot. I mean, she kind of did what Daniel Bryan did a few years ago and just kind of forced her way into that triple threat match. There was no denying, you know, putting Becky Lynch. And
she's so good on the mic.
And she stole all of Ronda's fire. Yeah. I mean, that's really what it boils down to with Ronda. I mean, she just took her fire because, you know, WrestleMania 35 was supposed to be Ronda's, like, crowning moment. And, you know, with the way... I mean, I guess I don't know for sure if, like, the plan was for Ronda to go over ever or anything like that. But, I mean, you would kind of assume, right, that she would probably go over. I mean, I don't know, because I know she was wanting to plan a family and things of that nature. But you would think that she has such a bright future ahead of her. Let her beat Charlotte. And there's still... I'm kind of upset that, you know, they didn't try to get into 4 horsewomen versus 4 horsewomen, you know, quicker. Because, you know, they played that up. Even when Ronda was still in the UFC.
Right.
With Shayna Baszler, Duke... I can't think of her first name right now. And the third one. Julie Kedzie, I think. And then, of course, you know, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Bayley, and Becky. So, I mean, you've already got 2 of them involved. I don't know. It's just, I feel like they kind of somewhat fumbled that, but at the same time, with the way that the whole Ronda experiment went, it was kind of hard to, you know, fit that in there. In 1 year, I mean, really, I mean, was all she was there for.
Yeah. I love Shayna Baszler.
Yeah, Shayna Baszler's awesome.
I think she's fantastic.
Awesome.
I wish they would have let her win the Raw Women's Championship.
It'll happen.
Yeah. I mean, it will, but that was the time to give it to her.
I feel you, and they're wanting to play this Baszler Jax. I hate that. I've never been big on Nia Jax, really, and I feel like any of the pushes I mean, I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, I mean, I don't know, like, I don't know, I'm not trying to be fucked up in any way by this. I just mean, like, literally character-wise, I feel like she's the female Big Show. You know, when you kind of think about it. I feel like she's kind of... they don't know what to do with her for sure. Yeah. She's kind of flippity-floppity. Yeah. And...
she reminds me of Khan. You remember the chick from TNA? Pretty much the same size.
Oh, Awesome Kong?
Awesome Kong.
Yeah. She was Karma in WWE for, her little stint. Okay, I could see that for sure.
But I mean, the character's better than what her character was, but it's still the same premise. I mean, you got this huge, female who just rolls over everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're worried to push her because she's not very polished.
No.
And she injures everybody.
I was about to say, and she's not really safe to work with.
No.
And I mean, really, for her not being too safe is like part of the reason that Becky Lynch blew the fuck up like she did, too. So, yeah, I think that I don't like what they're doing with Baszler. I think that, she should have stayed alone the whole time.
I mean, I think it adds some development to her character. Just because I think if you get somebody who just seems like a steamroller and they get too one-dimensional, and it just gets kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're trying to make her not so boring and trying to make her seem more human. And I think that's why they put her with Nia Jax, because Nia Jax needed that too.
Yeah.
I think.
And I don't like the two pairing, whatever, for kind of personal reasons, but I don't think it's a bad idea either because, they're both somewhat of the same character, bully and, going to beat everybody down.
Who's going to beat him? I mean,
that's kind of another problem almost because sometimes I think that it's so hard to book, and make things make sense sometimes when you have people like that. Like
when Big Show and Kane were tag team champions,
right?
Who the hell is going to beat them?
Right. You can't just book, whoever to go and beat them, and especially like you couldn't just have, Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross go out and beat Baszler and Jax clean.
Which is why I think that tag team's ending.
Yeah.
Because that nothing is going to work to where they can be the champions again, at least for now. I don't know. I mean, who do you bring in that's stronger than Shayna Baszler and bigger than Nia Jax?
Right.
Beat them. And then, even if you do, who's going to beat them? So I think you have to... I wish they would have let Kairi Sane stay. I think, wrestling-wise, I think her and Asuka would have been a better choice. But I think Asuka's a way bigger star, so I think that's why they decided to let Sane go.
I think a lot of times that's what happens, like, and especially the way I think of, like, Brock Lesnar, is it's so hard to book him to lose. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to, I think for the creative team at WWE to convince themselves, okay, this person could beat Brock. Mm-hmm. Or, outside of, obviously your very top echelon. And I think sometimes that's hard, to reason to actually beat him. And I think why he goes on these insane reigns. And obviously he, has so many days in his contract and, so much he's going to work. And me personally, I don't mind that, but I know a lot of people have their issues with it. Especially when you have Paul Heyman there to fill the gap. I don't mind Paul Heyman coming out on Monday Night Raw and speaking on the behalf of his client. I don't mind the fact that
here's the thing. Drew McIntyre was booked well at the Royal Rumble to beat Brock Lesnar. Mm-hmm. I was so annoyed when Brock Lesnar kept throwing people out one by one by one. I was like, they're going to let him go 1 to 30. This is going to be so annoying.
Yeah, that got boring at some point.
Finally, they showed what they were really going to do, and that was perfect. Mm-hmm. Let them eliminate the first 15 people, make you think they're doing the same thing they always do with them, and then have somebody kick them over the top rope. And that's exactly how you book somebody like that, and that's why Drew McIntyre's where he's at. And that is perfect booking that they don't always seem to do.
Yeah, that's very true. I think a lot of times that their bookings are very questionable at best. But yeah, I think that they did all that really, really well. And it really made McIntyre look so good, and with the promo work he's done and everything. Like we said earlier, Drew McIntyre is one of the best champions that they've had in quite some time.
Right.
I think, I don't know, you got anything else to add?
No, but I mean, we're gonna have a lot of stuff to watch because I don't know how fast this Reigns Uso match is gonna go. I don't expect to go more than 10 minutes before somebody comes in. Could be another return, maybe.
I guess I don't know about the real world.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jimmy Uso problems, but that'd be interesting to see him come back in that and be like,
that'd be interesting if he joined Heyman and Roman. Turn on.
Yeah.
That'd be interesting. Because technically, the Usos and Roman are family. So, I don't know. That could be a good story. If Jimmy Uso comes back, if they let him come back.
Right.
And join Heyman and Roman. Man, that's not a bad idea.
Or maybe even have a quick, clean match. Them shake hands at the end. I mean, obviously, Roman is a heel now, but you could turn the whole family into a heel stable with Paul Heyman being the mouthpiece for him. That might be a little excessive. I think I like the idea of Jimmy coming back and maybe like attacking Jay and them just both fuck him up and become their own thing.
Would be a good idea. I don't know, but keep your ears open because this is only the beginning.
Yes, sir. Episode 1.